Hi friends, welcome back into my home and into my kitchen here at All Things Kitchen. My name is Jennifer. Welcome back if you have been here before, and if you are new, thank you for stopping by. Today I'm going to be making yet again a new recipe, but it's something that's been on my mind for a while, and I am making an apple fritter bread, and it just sounds delicious. And we made apple fritters a while ago. And so I thought I would try the spinoff of that and try this apple fritter bread. And it's kind of looks like a coffee cake, so sort of. And it does have fall flavors. This is probably more of a fall recipe, but like I said, it's been on my mind for a while, and I've been wanting to do it for a while. It's a rainy, dreary day out today, so I thought, why not? I'd really rather be taking a nap. I'm exhausted, but it's one of those things where it's like an earworm. There's something in there, and I need to get this out and get this done. So come along with me. I've got all my ingredients ready to get started, and I'll bring you down and we'll start on this apple fritter bread together. So the first thing we're going to do is peel and dice up our apples. And this recipe calls for Granny Smith apples. I am using Cosmic apples, Cosmic Crisp apples. This is the first time that I have tried these apples, and I ate one as soon as they came from the grocery store because I had never had them before. And oh my goodness, to me, I think these apples are delicious. They're nice and crisp. They have an excellent flavor. They're not tart like a Granny Smith is tart. But for this recipe, I did look at several different recipes, watched a couple of videos to kind of get an idea of what I wanted. And this particular one called for Granny Smith, but most of them that I saw, it doesn't really matter what apple you use. Just use one that you know you like. If you want it to be a crisp apple, then get something that stays crisp. If you want a softer apple, then get that. It just depends on your kitchen, your rules, so it depends on your taste and your preferences. So I'm just peeling the skin off, and you could probably leave the skin on, just depend again on what you like, the textures you like. I don't mind apple skin, but whenever I try a new recipe, I do try to stick to the recipe as close as possible, just so that I know what is okay to change in the future. Now, I did think about changing it up and shredding the apples instead of dicing them, but I got to thinking about the water content, and I don't think that shredding would be the best way because of the water content in apples. And I just thought it might get a little bit too watery that way. So I am just going to dice them up. I don't want anything too small, nothing too big. Let me just get some of this, left some good apple on there. And waste not, want not. So I'm just going to dice these up into little cubes, and we'll go from there. So I will get my apple bowl ready there. I will bring you back when I am done with all of this. Okay, into my apples, I'm going to add, there's a couple of ways that I've seen this done. So I've seen people coat the apples with the brown sugar and cinnamon, and then I've seen them put the apples in layers on the batter to where they sprinkle the brown sugar and cinnamon over the batter in a layer, kind of like you would a coffee cake. The recipe that I'm following, which I will put down in the description box, does say to put some white sugar and cinnamon on the apples, but then it also has the brown sugar cinnamon mixture off to the side. I'm going to put it all on the apples. I just think it will mix nicely. So it does call for 2 tablespoons of white granulated sugar and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then the brown sugar ingredients is 1/3 cup of light brown sugar and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Like I said, I'm going to put all of that in there and coat the apples with all of that. So that's basically going to be 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Now, we recently switched to Ceylon cinnamon, which is not the typical cinnamon that you buy in the grocery store. Let me get something to mix this with. And I still need to get the brown sugar. The regular cinnamon that you buy in the spice aisle is not Ceylon cinnamon. It is a different type of cinnamon. But I have to tell you, I really like the taste and flavor of the Ceylon cinnamon, along with the smell is just unbelievable. The scent of it. All right, so now I need 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. Pardon me while I look for my measuring cup. And it says light brown, but if you've been with me at all, you know I have 1 brown sugar that I use, whether it calls for light or dark, and that's what I'm using, my homemade brown sugar. And I'm going to go wash my hands real quick. Okay, so this is ready, so I'm going to set this aside. My dog's at my feet because it's raining right now, so. So I need 1/2 cup of room temperature butter. And 2/3 cup of sugar. I know I'm kind of making a mess here, but this has brown sugar on it, which has a higher moisture content, and I didn't want to stick that into my sugar bowl. Snoopy, you're in my way, honey. Okay. So let me see if my butter's soft enough that I can do this by hand. I'm going to go ahead and get my hand mixer. Okay. So I'm going to add in 2 eggs, and these are also at room temperature. I'll add them in one at a time. Okay, I've got that mixed pretty well, and I'm going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, or as much as your heart desires, vanilla extract. 2 if you're sexy. If you know, you know. Now, into here, I'm going to add my flour and baking powder. So I have 1.5 cups of flour. Here's 1.5. So 1.5 cups of flour. 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. That is a 3/4 teaspoon. And I'm sure there's some salt. Hold on, I don't see this on my recipe. This recipe does not call for salt, but I'm going to add probably less than half a teaspoon. And I got some lumpy flour there. That's why I wanted to sift it. Plus, I want this to be nice and airy, light and airy. I'm so looking forward to tasting this. I hope I don't build it up too much in my head because I've been thinking about it for so long. So now I'm going to go back to my Danish whisk here and get this mixed up. And as soon as I get this all mixed together, then I have 1/2 cup of milk that goes in here. And I don't think I'm going to use the hand mixer for this at all. So I have 1/2 cup of room temperature milk. So all my items were room temperature that went in: my butter, my eggs, and my milk. So I'm going to mix this up. Okay, so I just turned the oven on to 350 degrees to preheat. Recipe calls for a 9x5 loaf pan. I don't know the exact measurements on this one. I have a larger loaf pan that I bake a regular size loaf of bread in, and then I have this one, which is a little bit smaller for a smaller loaf of bread. And I'm also going to put this parchment paper in just to make it nice and easy to come out. I'm sure it would be fine with just the spray, but why not? And I'm going to spray the inside of that parchment paper a little bit as well. Okay, so I'm going to put about half of this on the bottom. That might be a little less than half. I'm not sure if we get more. Now the apples did release some juices, so I'm going to do my best not to put that in there and just put the apples in there and try to leave the juice behind. I just want to spread these out and tamp them down a little bit, get them into the batter. Now, most of the recipes that I've seen, people are just putting the apples on top and then putting another layer. I kind of want this all mixed in a little bit. I'm going to do my best to get 3 layers out of this with between the batter and the apples. It only calls for 2, but I want this really blended in. It's probably more of maybe just an apple cinnamon bread. There we go. Now I know I said I like to follow the recipes the first time. I am veering off from that a little bit. And then we're going to put the last of the batter on top here. Okay, so with this, I'm going to put another layer of apples on the top. And then we'll trying to avoid most of that moisture. I might find a good use for that. Maybe make some French toast tomorrow and kind of use that as a syrup on my French toast. May even do that for dinner tonight. Who knows? I kind of thought it would do that, release that moisture, which number one was part of the reason why I did want to do that, because I wanted that moisture not in the cake. Oh my goodness, my area here is just a mess. So now what I'm going to do is give this a swirl. Like that. Just like that. That's all I'm going to do. And that's probably going to burn on that paper, so that's probably not the best thing to do. And then another thing that it does not have in the recipe. So I have some sugar crystals here that I'm going to put on half of this. I only want to do it on half of it because I want to see how it does. Plus, this really doesn't need any more sugar on it, but I thought it might give it a nice crispy top on the half that I'm going to do. So I'm just going to do half, and these are big sugar crystals. See that okay? This is not just regular sugar. These are big decorating sugar crystals like you would put on cookies. So I'm just doing it on half. I know I'll be able to tell which half it is because it should do a little bit of something. So I'm going to put this in the oven now, and it's supposed to cook for about an hour. Watch out, Snoop. I have read in some reviews on some other recipes that it took longer than an hour. So it really just depends on your oven, of course, probably the moisture content in the apples, things like that. So, stick a toothpick in it, and if it comes out clean, then it's done. I'm going to set my timer for an hour and check it at that hour, and I'll bring you back when this is coming out, and I will let you know how long it took my oven to bake. Now, obviously, there are other variations that you could do. You could possibly use a different type of fruit if you wanted, or you could put some nuts in here if you wanted. You could do the actual layers that the recipe calls for. I did want it more mixed in, but with the extra cinnamon that an apple fritter calls for, rather than just having an apple bread. So, crossing my fingers that this turns out delicious. And now I'm going to clean up my mess. So, hurry on over so you can help me clean up. And I'll wait for you. I'll be waiting. The recipe does call for a icing glaze like an apple fritter. And that's 1/3 cup of powdered sugar with 1 to 3 tablespoons of either cream or milk, depending on how thin or thick you want it. I am going to make a little bit just to put on a small portion of it, but like I said earlier, it already has a lot of sugar, and I want to keep the sugar content down a little bit. So I'm not going to be putting the glaze over all of it. But again, your rules, your kitchen, your rules, you go ahead and do what works for you. And if you want to put it all over it, that's something that you can do. And the recipe will be there for you to take a look at, and you can adjust it in any way that you want to. Now, there's about 35 minutes left on it, at least. So it doesn't look much different than when I put it in the oven. So I've got everything all cleaned up, all the dishes washed, and so we're just waiting for that to cook, and we'll make that glaze. Like I said, just going to put just a little bit over a small portion of it, and I'll bring you back when it's out of the oven. The timer just went off on the oven, and I checked it, and I'm just going to give it about 5 more minutes, and it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. I did want to bring you back. I'm going to go ahead and make a small amount of glaze, so I'm just going to do that real quick, and the extra 5 minutes that it's cooking in the oven. The recipe does call for 1/3 cup of powdered sugar, and 1 to 3 tablespoons of milk or cream. I'm just using a couple of tablespoons of powdered sugar, and I'm just going to eyeball the cream that I'm putting in here. And that was easy enough. Just kind of break up a couple of those lumps. If you are making a large amount, it might be a good idea to go ahead and sieve your powdered sugar. But that's just a small amount, and I think that'll be lovely on there. Okay. Doesn't that look beautiful? I don't know about you, but I wish I could dive in right now. We definitely need to give that some time to cool down a little bit. Maybe pull away from the sides and give it, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. And then I'll take it out of the pan and just have it on the, I've got it on a wire rack right now. So we'll give that about 10 minutes to cool down, and then we'll put a little bit of glaze. Probably, I'll go ahead and, this did crisp up where I put that sprinkling sugar on there. That's nice. But I like the look of this as well, and I think it'll look beautiful with that glaze on there. But I want to wait to put the glaze on until I take it out of the pan. So I'll bring it back in about 10 minutes. As you can see, I have taken the apple fritter bread out of the pan, and it's here on the cooling rack. I did put a piece of parchment paper underneath it, as well as the one that's still underneath the loaf. I'm just going to drizzle some icing here on, I guess it's a little thick, a little thicker than I thought. Just a little bit here on the edge. Well, it's not drizzling like I thought it would. Let's just do this then, because I don't want to mess with it too much. It looks so pretty. So I probably could have put this in like a pastry bag or a Ziploc bag and cut off the corner or something to make it drizzle or make it a little thinner. As you see, I didn't put very much on there, but I want to cut into this. Okay, we are going to give this, you're here with me in spirit. I'm going to give this a try. It's not as sweet as I thought it was going to be. It had a ton of sugar in it between all the sugar that was on the apples, but it's good. Let me go in for another bite. Get some with that top on there. That top part that had the crispiness on it, that's really good. I honestly think the cake portion, the bread portion, maybe I'm thinking of it too much as like a cake and not a bread. Maybe that's where my brain's not matching up with my taste buds, because it is an apple fritter bread, but I still expected it to be a lot sweeter than it is. That sweetness of the sugar that I put on the crust, love that. That crispiness, love that. I don't know how it's going to be on the other side that doesn't have that crispy top on it. But it's not as sweet as I thought it was going to be. So keep that in perspective if you go to make this recipe. I did put a little bit of the glaze on this portion of the bread as well after I put it on the plate. And I thinned out the glaze with a little bit of milk. I was trying to get a drizzle on there, but I think I thinned it out too much. So that made it moist, if you will. We'll see what it looks like in the bread. Each bite, I'm getting something a little bit different. That first bite was just very batter-ish. There wasn't a whole lot of apples or cinnamon or sugar that I got in that bite. And that's what kind of threw me off. But that third bite, I should say, I had apple and cinnamon in it, and that definitely tasted better. That first bite, I wasn't too happy with. The second and third bite, much better. I think it was just having just the bread portion, if you will, without any apple, cinnamon, sugar in it. It wasn't as good as I was hoping. But with the apple, when you get a bite of the apple, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So if you would like to try that, please do let me know your thoughts. Or if you have a different recipe that you use, please feel free to share down in the comments. Let me know what you like to do, different recipes that maybe you are thinking of. Excuse me. Different recipes that maybe you are thinking of that you would like to try. Maybe something that's just kind of stuck in your brain that you're trying to find different videos on or different recipes for, and maybe we can do them together. Give this a try. See if you like it. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll get together again and do this again. I'm glad I did this. It's been on my mind for way too long. And now I think what we're going to actually try to do maybe is make some French toast out of it. We'll see. We'll see how that is. Because I don't have dinner plans as of yet. And it's going on 7 o'clock in the evening. So we may be having apple fritter French toast, apple fritter bread French toast, or maybe just apple fritter bread. Who knows? I appreciate you coming along today and spending your time with me and coming along as I do all these new recipes and experiments. Give me your thoughts, give me your ideas, and we'll hang out again. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Take care, friends.